This is a 25 marker walkthrough for A-Level Economics Edexcel Paper 1. I'm going to take you through structuring and answering this question, which is on wage differences within the UK labour market. My suggestion is pause the video, answer the question, write out an answer for yourself, or at least think through how you would answer it, and then watch the video just to get a sense of how what you write lines up with what I write. Not that there's going to be one correct answer, especially for a question like this, where I think there's a few different avenues you can go down, but I think it's good to actively participate in revising this. So the question reads, in July 2016, it was announced that only a third of the BBC's 96 top earning presenters were women, and that its 7 highest paid presenters were all men. According to the High Pay Centre, in 2018, UK chief executives earn 120 times more than the average full-time worker, earning £28,758. With reference to an industry of your choice, evaluate why wage differences exist in the UK labour market. This is a very broad question. And I think there's a lot of different ways you can answer it. I think given we've been given this prompt, I wouldn't want to just focus on either gender differences or like pay disparity between different levels of earners. I would want to sort of pick 2 topics that are going to cover everything with enough breadth to really address the question. I would want to talk about maybe gender differences and discrimination. And I would say gendered / BAME differences, perhaps, right? So talking not only about gender, but also maybe other groups of people who might be discriminated against in the workplace, and discuss that. I would also think about, for topic B, doing something that is less focused on, say, minority groups or discriminated groups, and is more focused maybe on inequalities of income more broadly between different social categories, between maybe high income earners and low income earners. I think you can do, say, differences in pay based on skill, and I will want to sort of beef this up a bit more, also maybe talking about maybe some inequalities in things like education, again, just to offer a bit more course material. I think a lot of people maybe struggle with this question in terms of making it relevant to the course and not just talking broadly about issues they might want to address. Another option, I think, would be to really dig deep into the sort of geographic inequality within the UK. And I think there's a lot of stuff that you could talk about there. That would be another really good option to talk kind of about structural unemployment in different parts of the UK, talk about regional differences. I think there's a lot of directions you can take this. So in terms of definitions for this, I am going to want to think about perceived marginal revenue product of labor. I would also think about defining maybe it's just completely gone out of my head. We'll come back to it. For a diagram on this, I would want to show a labor market diagram that shows a disparity between favored and discriminated groups. So I have an example of this here. So it would look like this, or something like this, where we've got basically a true marginal revenue product for a group, and then a perceived marginal revenue product, which is basically, if you boil discrimination down in economic terms, it's misjudging people based on superficial qualities and presuming that they are not going to be as productively efficient as other workers, and therefore underemploying them and underpaying them. So this diagram does a good job of that. There are other variations that you could go with, but essentially the analysis is to say employers will hire based, that's not how, will hire based on a perceived marginal revenue product of labor, right? How much value they believe an employee will deliver. Racist or sexist or misogynistic, maybe feels more, if I could spell it, but I'm not going to try. Sexist attitudes could result in employers underestimating the prospective employees, MRPL, thus offering them fewer jobs and a lower wage compared to favored groups. And that, like, you can embellish that a bit, you can add a bit more. Maybe there's a different sort of price elasticity demand for, or wage elasticity demand, I suppose, in this context, for discriminated groups than there are for favored groups. You can analyze that a bit. In terms of evaluation, I might say there may, this is always tricky to evaluate a point like this, but I might say there may also be other factors at play. For example, due to gendered norms, women may be less likely to opt into higher paying degree paths, or alternatively, you could say, like, just as an alternative option, you could talk about laws towards maternity and paternity leave could affect earning potential. So I wouldn't say discrimination doesn't exist as my evaluation. I don't think that's a very good idea. But you might want to point to other factors in terms of breaking down why that disparity might exist. And then topic B would be differences based in pay on skill. So I'm interested in, again, maybe distinguishing in definitions between high skill and low skilled labor. I'm interested in occupational labor mobility, which is a big topic that I'm going to come on to in a second. In terms of diagrams for this, I really like this one, which sort of shows high skilled and low skilled labor like overlaid on top of each other. A bit blurry when I expand it out, but you can see there is a lower supply of skilled labor, a higher supply of unskilled labor, and a strong preference with employers for skilled labor, which results in generally much higher wages paid to skilled labor. And the analysis here is like pay is often based on pay is determined by marginal product of labor, which defines demand for an employee based on their ability to generate revenue for a firm. Skilled workers are generally able to generate more revenue. Again, I'm not going to write this out fully, so therefore we get higher pay. Another factor that I might talk about here is like there is more of a scarcity of skilled labor. You could also, if we're talking about sort of CEO pay, I might talk about a principal agent problem, where like maybe board members or CEOs are incentivized to award themselves better bonus packages, even if that's not necessarily in the economic best interest of the firm. So there's a lot of stuff you can go into here. I would also maybe be interested in areas of the UK have different educational infrastructure. For example, this may lead to big disparities in skill level. Like, right, so it's not just, you can also dig into why there are those differences in skill. My evaluation, I'm actually sort of tempted to almost move the principal agent problem down and use that as my evaluation, especially because we have the CEO pay point, right? So basically arguing decision makers are incentivized to award themselves high compensation or award their sort of friends or people in their network with high compensation, even if that's not in the best interest of the firm overall.